welcome to episode 129 of Retro Encounter, RPG fans' topic-specific themed podcast on a weekly basis. Yeah, excuse me for that.
Okay, we need to compartmentalize that a bit.
I never know what to say for the description of Retro Encounter. Really, the only thing that we know about it going week to week, episode to episode, is that it is once a week. Usually Thursdays, sometimes Friday or Saturday if I've had a rough time that week. But here we are, 129 episodes in, and I am with two of my Retro Encounter best buds. First among which is Peter Triezenberg.
Hey everyone, Peter Triezenberg. I have Fury on the boards.
And second of which, Keegan.
Hey guys, Fozzie Bear on the boards here.
Now, guys, this episode was a long time coming. Like it started out as us playing with the idea of doing another list of 10 games, like when we did 2 years ago. But also we weren't interested in just redoing that, and we weren't interested in having the creation of the list be the discussion of the episode, because that was really messy last time. It was fun, and I don't have regrets about that episode, but it was messy. Would you agree, Peter? You were on that one with me.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely it was a process for sure.
Yeah. So, but we were interested in doing something a little like that again, and so we arrived at the idea of have this be like a little bit like the Essential 10 episode, but also a little bit like the SNES Encounter episode that we did. I think of a few months before that. I think it was also 2016. So we did a Super Nintendo episode and a Top 10 list episode in 2016, and we're combining those two concepts for today's very special episode, Top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs. Now, but we did most of the discussion ahead of time. Like, there was a lot of Slack chats, a very messy Google Doc that probably should have been remade into a second Google Doc. And I would say weeks of discussion. It was mostly the three of us, but there was input from some other people on staff as well. Mm-hmm. And we did arrive at a ranked list of 10 that I feel pretty good about. I'm a little upset about a couple things here and there. Like there's no just what was something that I fought for that didn't make it in. There's only one Final Fantasy game in here for one. And then I think that probably could have done as many as 3, but I mean, the list is what it is. We're not making any changes now. We've already done way too much discussion about this off-air. And so for the listeners, we are only going to show the final ranked list of 10 Super Nintendo RPGs that we concocted together. So, but before we go and reveal number 10, Keegan, do you have any thoughts about the creation of this list? Any real regrets? Where's your headspace right now?
I'll be honest, it was kind of a brutal process at times. Like, there were a couple of personal messages that I had to send to Peter just because I was getting really heated. But
yeah, we definitely had to kind of, cool off a bit.
Yeah, but I think in the end we were all able to come together. I think the fact that we all agreed on number 1 speaks volumes about how we feel about it. And I'm very confident that this list, if not definitive for everyone, is the definitive RPG fan Super Nintendo list.
No, it's not a definitive list by any stretch of the imagination. Like, saying something is a definitive list of something is, that person's full of crap. But this is a list that I feel is honest. It was tempered. We put a genuine effort forth and got a genuine result that we are satisfied with right now. We were not satisfied for much of those weeks of planning, but now I think we all feel pretty good. Peter, where are you on the status of the list? Just your feelings about it.
Yeah, I had a couple of games that I wanted to suggest that didn't quite make the cut, and I was a bit salty about that. Yeah. But I think we came together pretty well. We figured it out. Eventually, everyone made really good arguments for their inclusions, and all in all, I think I'm pretty happy with the final product.
Right on. So anyway, we're not doing any discussion. We're not changing the order of anything. We are only going to present the list and discuss each item one by one, starting with number 10 and ending at number 1. No honorable mentions or almost made the cuts. I'm not going to fake it and say this list is actually 14 or something. No. It's these 10 games, and we're going to start with number 10. Number 10 on the list, Chrono Trigger.
And you didn't see that one coming, did you?
Yeah, I didn't. I think I had, when I was sort of gave you guys my first proposed 10, Chrono Trigger was very high up for me. But I think basically we all like Chrono Trigger. That wasn't the issue at all. But all of us had other games on the list that we felt more strongly about being on the list. And Chrono Trigger sort of just kept falling down a little bit with other games that people felt strongly about. I'm glad that Chrono Trigger. I would have been upset if Chrono Trigger didn't make the list, and I probably would have had it higher than 10th. But here's where it is, man.
I think it's unfortunate that it's at 10th, but I think it also speaks volumes to the other games on this list of how well they are. I mean, if Chrono Trigger is the starting point, I mean, how can we just go from here, you know?
Yeah, and also, Chrono Trigger is one of those games where it's like, its place in RPG history has been pretty firmly cemented, and I think it's one of those games where it gets so much recognition for what, and rightly so, but there's just a lot of other games I think we wanted to give the spotlight to. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that Chrono Trigger isn't an amazing game, because it truly is.
Yeah, and I played Chrono Trigger a little recently. I played it last year for the podcast, and
yeah, me too.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was you, myself, Chris, and Alana. Am I guessing that right, or did we have a fifth?
I believe so. I would have to go back.
Yeah, it was Chris's first time playing it, which I thought was insane. But like, Chrono Trigger has been part of my life and in the grand canon of Super Nintendo RPGs for so long that I think I sort of just accepted it as great, and I acknowledge it's great, and I love it. But it's sort of always been there as this untouchable Super Nintendo RPG that I don't know. It almost felt a little boring to have it as in like the number 1 or number 2 spot. So I think the three of us were just very comfortable having it fall down the list until it settled at 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird to think about, but here we are, right?
Yeah, right.
So anyway, number 10 is Chrono Trigger. Number 9 on our list of top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs is ActRaiser.
So the listeners should know how big fans some of us are of Quintet's games. You know, they made Terra Enigma, they made Illusion of Gaia, just some really great stuff.
I adore ActRaiser. It is unlike any other game that I've played. Both the city phases and the battle phases the gameplay is just outstanding. The designs are cool. It sort of combines God game with action game and RPG in a way that hasn't really been replicated since, and does it with a lot of personality. And I'm stuttering, but I'm sort of surprised there aren't a dozen ActRaiser clones. Like, why is it like ActRaiser 2 isn't even like ActRaiser?
Yeah, it's weird. They never replicated the success of that first game. It was like this this diamond in the rough, and then they never followed up on that.
I think they meant ActRaiser 2 to be like the first one, but then they had to cut out the town phases and some of the RPG elements. Probably for time or budget reasons, because even the way you stage select in that game is just like ActRaiser 1. But ActRaiser is, I think, one of the signature Super Nintendo games. It's maybe the game I was the saltiest was not included on the Super Nintendo Classic device from the late 2017. But it's just an outstanding Super Nintendo RPG. I've actually never beaten it because the final. I mentioned this on the podcast last year. There's 6 stages or 6 zones, and each zone has 2 bosses. And for the final boss, you have to beat all of the 6 zone bosses in a row, and then a new final boss afterwards. And
wow!
And it would take all of my resources just to beat one of those bosses in the regular stages. So I could not handle all 7 in a row. And I think I got to the 7th final boss once or twice, but that's it. So like, I do revisit ActRaiser semi-often, but it will be me beating the first 2 stages and then moving on to something else. Or, well, actually, you can choose the order of zones. I beat Fillmore and Bloodpool and then move on to something else. So, but Keegan, have you played ActRaiser? You've been a little bit quiet on this one, and I know you weren't defending it when we were making this list over the course of March.
It's funny, because I actually picked up the game shortly after we made the list. I went to one of my local retro game stores, found a copy there for about like $450, so I think I got a steal on it. It felt pretty cheap, but
they might have stolen from you. I don't think it's that expensive, but it is a little hard to find, and the only way to legally have it on a modern system is the Wii Virtual Console. It does have ActRaiser, but it's not on the Wii U Virtual Console or the new 3DS Virtual Console.
Are you telling me I could have hooked up my Wii and bought it?
Your Wii or possibly your Wii U in Wii mode, but I'm not sure. I'm less sure about that.
I'm not sure if the Wii Virtual Console is even still up, so it might be that...
I think it just died at the end of 2017, maybe. But I'm not positive. But I still have my Wii that has a copy of ActRaiser on it, and that's how I've been playing it at least the past couple of years.
Rest in peace, Wii. We will miss you.
Will we, though?
Ripping pepperonis. The Wii U's Virtual Console is next. Mark my words. Now that they've announced Smash, like that's when they're gonna start shutting down the Wii U servers.
There's a couple Wii games that I like enough to keep my Wii out, but if they get Switch ports or even ports to other systems for the non-Nintendo games, I wouldn't mind being able to put that thing away.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But anyway, I think we've talked enough about ActRaiser. ActRaiser is our game number 9 on our top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs list. And so now we move on to number 8, a personal favorite of mine, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. And we mentioned before recording, Keegan, both you and I didn't realize the conquest pun until we were at least a decade or two after playing this game.
I think the English major in me just automatically read it as Diddy Kong's Quest.
Yes, like, exactly.
My brain just moved that apostrophe.
Yeah, shoot, I might have been there too. I don't know, this wasn't an original thought coming from me. I think I saw it as a joke on, I don't know, probably Twitter, and then I realized, oh my God, that's true of me too. What have I've been living a lie all this time? But okay, one lie we have not been living is that, or I should say, one thing we've been living that's not a lie is that this is one of the best RPGs on the Super Nintendo. So many more gameplay refinements from the first Donkey Kong Country. Everyone agrees Dixie Kong is the best sidekick of all of these 2-character Donkey Kong games, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. That's the question though. Does it have funky mode?
It does not have funky mode. We will be able to play Tropical Freeze in funky mode very soon. But when they brought back Dixie for Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I think everyone embraced that because she has the most fun design of all the Kong characters, and also has the best ability. But anyway, DKC2 improved production value from the first game, more gameplay phases, like both Diddy and Dixie played differently than Donkey and Diddy in the first game. More animal buddies. The music is amazing. This is one of the best soundtracks on the Super Nintendo. David Wise did it, and it is awesome. But I think it stands out as one of the best Super Nintendo RPGs. I was really happy this made the final list.
Oh, absolutely. I see it compared a lot to Secret of Mana with some of the similarities. You know, it has the co-op play.
Sure, yeah, and to be able to switch characters on the fly.
Yes, but I feel like DKC2 does it better. You know, I just have to say. And I think that's why we see it here on the list. It's just a marvel of Super Nintendo RPG excellence.
And it's better than the first or third one. I don't know if it's the best one overall because, I mean, Tropical Freeze is pretty great. Yeah, I think it belongs on this list, especially since the variety of environments and how good the music is.
Absolutely. And
another thing about the SNES Classic, that thing only had Donkey Kong Country 1 on it, and it's like, man, why didn't you put the best one on this? Come on. What are you doing, Nintendo? Get out of here. Go home. You're drunk.
They need to release like an SNES Classic 2 that has like twice as many games.
Oh, God, I'd probably buy it too. How sad is that? Depending on what was on it.
Or it's like
they got me wrapped around their fingers.
It's like an expansion cart for the SNES Classic.
You can put it into like the unused controller port or something.
Yeah, right. And it adds like 20 more games.
Stop. These are really good ideas. If Nintendo's listening, we're done.
Probably get that too. But anyway, number 8 on our list, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, another excellent Super Nintendo RPG. But we're moving on to number 7. This, Keegan, you were, I think, the most fervent defender of this game. This wasn't even the game in the series I would have picked for this spot. But at spot number 7, Mega Man Soccer. It's definitely the most RPG-ish of the Mega Man games on the Super Nintendo. Like in the Mega Man X series, they added the equipment that increases your health and more variation to the weapons and more ways to upgrade your character. Just like Mega Man X brought the RPG elements to Mega Man in a way that hadn't happened before. But really, Mega Man Soccer is about those RPG elements with a larger party of characters. And you making that point made me begrudgingly accept that Mega Man Soccer was a better choice than Mega Man X for our list of RPGs. So care to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I do apologize for how heated these discussions got, by the way. I know we didn't want to talk about it, but I feel like I should apologize to you. Moving on to Mega Man Soccer is unlike anything we've seen before or since in a Mega Man or Super Nintendo RPG. A fun fact, too, people think this is a guiding game, but it actually takes place after Mega Man 4, so it does fit into the canon of the Mega Man series.
Oh yeah, I guess there aren't any characters from Mega Man 5 or 6 in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun little note for the Mega Man fans out there who kind of ignored this one, which is a shame.
Yeah, my grasp of the Mega Man timeline is not the firmest. I think it's a little better than Street Fighter in that like the Mega Man games do happen in the order of the game's numbers, which is helpful because I mean Street Fighter. I think the technical order of Street Fighter is 1, 0, 2, 4, 5, 3. I think.
Sorry, I just had an aneurysm when you mentioned Street Fighter timeline.
I'm being 100% serious. I think that is the order of the Street Fighter main series, but 0 was called Alpha in the West. But yeah, Mega Man Soccer. I wasn't really aware of its position with the canon, but it is a satisfying, entertaining Mega Man RPG. It's and especially the team building and team design parts of it are what give it an edge in RPG elements over Mega Man X, which is, full disclosure, Mega Man X is my favorite Mega Man game.
That's fair. I can understand that.
And so, Peter, I know like you weren't getting angry about that Mega Man X versus Mega Man Soccer discussion like Keegan and I were, but what are your thoughts on its inclusion on our list here?
Oh, I think it's one of the best decisions we made. I think it doesn't get a lot of attention, truth be told. When we were talking about this in another episode about how Mega Man has this really surprisingly storied history of RPGs. I completely overlooked Mega Man Soccer.
Right. We even talked about Mega Man Battle Network and Mega Man X Command Mission 2 weeks ago for the podcast.
Yeah. So I'm like, Mega Man has a dozen RPGs to his name, and this one is almost like where that whole legacy starts. Like you're just looking at it with. You just managing your party of different Mega Man characters is just it's really hard to believe I didn't pick up on the similarities before now.
And also, I mean, it goes without saying, Capcom sprite design in the 90s and early 2000s is just awesome. Like they always made they're always very expressive and cartoony and sort of cute and cool at the same time. They're like the classic Mega Man Robot Master designs are among the finest in sort of video game enemy designs. I always just get hit by waves of nostalgia playing old Street Fighter and Mega Man games, especially from the 90s. But I mean, Capcom had good 80s and 2000s stuff. But Mega Man Soccer takes place in Capcom's heyday of sprite work and art design, and I think that helps the game a lot too.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I think we've done enough showering of praise on Mega Man Soccer. Are we ready to move on to the next spot?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, now, I won't say this is my favorite game on the list. It absolutely isn't. Although I do support its conclusion, but I think it might have the best boss fights of any game that we have on this list at all. And and the game we're talking about, of course, is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. The size of the characters, because basically everyone's 3 times the size of Little Mac in this game, and the expressiveness of both when they're attacking and when they're injured is just so cool, and the fights are so intense. And I've never beaten any game in the Punch-Out series because I mean before the Super Nintendo one, we had there was one on the NES, but they replaced Mike Tyson with it was either Mr. Dream or Sandman, I forget which.
I believe it's Mr. Dream, but.
Okay. Right. Okay. And then there was the Wii one, which also had Sandman as the final boss. And but both of them were pretty good. I've played all of them, but I have not beaten any of them. Although I've done the first 2/3 of the game for all of them. But Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the Super Nintendo, absolutely the best one. The combat is so intense. The boss fights are great, and everything looks so good. Peter, what's your experience with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the Super Nintendo?
Honestly, I just I first heard about it, reading Nintendo Power magazine. It was one of those classic games that I really had to go back and experience for myself. And when I played it, I was just really impressed, like you mentioned, by the detail of the sprites is really something. The expressiveness, the boss fights in this game, it's a game of pattern recognition and just learning to get into the groove of the enemy's attacks, being able to recognize their tells. In a lot of ways, it's kind of a predecessor to Dark Souls.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, feeling out the fights methodically and and searching for your openings before really, and then seizing on opportunities. There is similarity there. I mean, I'm not really a Dark Souls guy, so I don't love using those comparisons, even though it's the most popular one to make. But I think Rob Steinman just sneezed and blinked real hard just now.
For sure.
Re-invoking that comparison, but I understand it. Like, the boss fights are so crafted and so intense in this game. They really stand out. Keegan, what are your thoughts on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? I don't think this was the most controversial inclusion.
No, it's actually funny that you mentioned it's similar to Dark Souls, because I have very much a feeling that Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and the Punch-Out series in general were more of a prelude to what we would see in the Monster Hunter series. You see,
now you're speaking my language. Mm-hmm.
I know, yeah, because it all involves tells when fighting these gigantic beasts. I mean, King Hippo, Mike Tyson, all of them just tower over your character. And I believe it was either Super Punch-Out or the Punch-Out that they released on the Wii, where you could actually take parts from the enemy boxers and use them to equip yourself better.
Oh, weird.
I might be misremembering. Yeah, it was weird. It was a little weird. But
I don't remember that. It must be one of the ones I didn't get as deep into.
Yeah, we didn't really discuss it. It wasn't until Dark Souls metaphor that I was like, oh, no, I'm thinking Monster Hunter here.
Right, okay.
But, yeah, it gives those Monster Hunter vibes, you know. I don't want to say Capcom stole from Nintendo, but I feel it a little bit in my bones.
Nah, Monster Hunter didn't steal from anything. Monster Hunter is pure and original and perfect.
That's fair. Now, if Mike Tyson ever appears in Monster Hunter, though,
okay,
I'm gonna want a written apology.
Okay, maybe I will accept that your argument if Mike Tyson skin or Mike Tyson monster appears in Monster Hunter. I will accept that, but that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I mean, Monster Hunter World DLC's only really begun to roll out though, so I guess there's still time.
Ooh, that's true. I got to get that petition started online.
Now, number 5 on the list, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, number 6. We're putting that one behind us now. Number 5 on the list is the only one on this list that I haven't played. You guys were fighting for this one more than I was, but I didn't really fight you that hard because I know this game has a really lofty reputation, and that is Phantasy Star 4. I know it's by far the most popular of the first 4 Phantasy Star games before they started moving on to the Phantasy Star Online jank for later systems. But 4 is always cited as one of the best 16-bit RPGs. I have heard a bunch of people on the site are big fans of Phantasy Star 4, and it's appeared on lists for Retro Encounter in the past, internal lists, not a public vote or anything. But so I know it's popular, I know it's good, but I haven't played it. Peter, what's your experience with Phantasy Star 4?
Well, I actually have it as part of the Classics collection on Steam.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they later would port it to Steam to make this game more readily available. So you don't actually have to track down a Super Nintendo to be able to play it, which I always enjoyed.
I think it is also on the Wii Virtual Console. It's which is how I got it because I went insane on the Wii U Virtual Console. I think I've spent over $100 on it, which is which is another reason I'm not getting rid of my Wii. But so I have it available to me, but I haven't played it before.
Yeah, and this is one of those games where I love the space opera kind of tone of it. I feel like sci-fi is a genre that gets underexplored in RPGs a lot. RPGs tend to focus more on fantasy or just kind of a more goofy, offbeat aesthetic, and it's really rare that you get like a straight sci-fi game. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And as a classic RPG, it's held up surprisingly well.
Oh yes.
Keegan, you're a big fan of this game, if memory serves, from our discussions before, right?
Yes. It's funny because when we first came into the discussion, me and Peter were talking about sci-fi fantasy, and at first I really wanted to put in my personal favorite, The Last Hope, which I feel is one of the best sci-fi operas out there in games. But I forgot that it was an Xbox 360 game and not a Super Nintendo game,
right,
so
yeah.
Bully on me.
A decade ahead of yourself on that or so.
It happens every now and then.
I understand the confusion.
Yeah, they're very similar when you really dig down into it.
Yeah, I mean, I
really dig down.
Yeah, I put Seiken Densetsu 3 on my list originally, but then I forgot that's a Super Famicom game and not a Super Nintendo game. So that had to get cut early, which is a regret. But I mean,
it hurts.
Yeah, we set rigid rules for this list just to establish boundaries, and we have to follow those rules. But so alas, no Star Ocean: The Last Hope, no Seiken Densetsu 3, but we do have Phantasy Star 4.
Yeah, it's true. It is probably one of the better games in the Phantasy Star series. I know that one gets more controversial, but I think when you put it down into the Super Nintendo, cut out the original Nintendo, I think there was a Virtual Boy Phantasy Star. I'm not 100% on that, but I feel like it was there.
Oh, I don't know. My grasp of the Virtual Boy, other than that it had a pretty good Wario game, is basically non-existent.
Yes, but Phantasy Star 4 is truly the epitome of sci-fi fantasy. And if you have the opportunity to get your hands on it, whether it be through the Wii U Virtual Console or finding an old Super Nintendo, I highly suggest you play this game.
Awesome. All right, so that is Phantasy Star 4, number 5 on our list. And we're going to move ahead to a game that I admit I was really eager to talk about. This is one of my all-time favorite Super Nintendo games. The Super Nintendo adaptation of the board game Clue is one of the finest offerings the system has to offer, and the absolutely rich cast of characters and dialogue in it are astounding.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The dialogue is so snappy. I mean, you've probably heard Rob Simon and I quote this game on Random Encounter a couple times with the banter between Miss Scarlet and Colonel Mustard before they find the dead motorist in the third puzzle in the game, and the grand finale when you have to use the dialogue choices with Wadsworth to determine which ending you get is incredible. I like so much about this is about Clue is even though the puzzle design is great, the setting is great, the characters and dialogue are great. I admit that the combat is not the best, but as sort of a puzzle game, almost like an old school adventure game with RPG elements and just rich dialogue and story, and also incorporating so much from the classic board game, Clue for the Super Nintendo is an all-time great RPG.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel when you have so many systems in a game, something does fall through at the end, and unfortunately that is the combat in Clue. It's still good for the time, but compared to the next 3 games, however, in our list, I do feel it does fall flat.
That's one weakness of the game. Like, the way that the weapon positioning in the combat works is if you have weapons in the wrong rooms during a final or near final encounter, you can reach an unwinnable state.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a real weakness, but it's not easy to hit that unwinnable state, but it's a bummer for sure.
Fortunately, because I feel like Clue was the inspiration for a lot of games like that Telltale does, or the Danganronpa series especially.
Yes.
So and they wisely learned from Clue's mistakes and decided to use other gameplay mechanics instead of the combat. But Clue still, I think, in terms of its ending choices and that dialogue you mentioned, it's so ahead of its time, and I'm amazed that they were able to use the likenesses of Tim Curry and Christopher Lloyd in this movie.
It's Martin Mull and Michael McKean and Madeline Kahn and the lady with of the very curvaceous woman from the later Police Academy movies who plays the maid. I forget it. It's Colleen something. But whatever. The Clue as a film adaptation and as a game adaptation and as an inspiration for future games of that sort of adventure visual novel RPG style, it fits absolutely alongside the best LucasArts and Sierra games of its ilk of that time.
Undoubtedly.
Absolutely.
So that's Clue, and that was number 4 on our list. So we're moving on to spot number 3. One that was all 3 of us were pretty excited to include here. All 3 of us loved this one. There wasn't a lot of, there was some controversy as to where to rank it, but no controversy about whether or not to include it. And that is the Project Octopath Traveler demo version, which is outstanding. You should be. It's. I mean, it'll be impossible to find a Super Nintendo cartridge of this thing in 2018, but you still can find it on the Switch for download. And man, it is one of the best Super Nintendo RPG experiences you can get.
Yeah, for sure. You have a couple characters you can choose from, and it gives you just a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm. You know, I make a lot of deep cut jokes that we do on this show, but I feel like this is an important one. We're gonna have, people, detractors out there, but I guarantee you this is a Super Nintendo RPG to the core. I mean, there's really no fighting amongst that one.
And it's the the sprite work and textures are unbelievable, like nothing you've ever seen on the Super Nintendo.
They push the system's limits.
Yeah, and it's the team that did that went on to make Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and you can see the lineage there of just the gorgeous sprite work and the way that the backdrops are sort of like 2D layers, almost like a really beautiful diorama or something, or like something with a cutout, but the environments and sprite work are amazing. Ulbrich and Primrose are beautifully animated and have really different gameplay mechanics surrounding both of them. And the turn-based combat is just sort of feels classic and modern at the same time. There's so much going on in the Project Octopath Traveler demo that I mean, is there a game on this list that needs a sequel that never got a sequel more badly than this one?
Oh my goodness, yes. It's been, about like 15, almost 20 years, I want to say.
Well, I mean, yeah, they stopped making Super Nintendo games around 98, 99.
Yeah.
Which I'm aware is well into the N64's lifespan, but there's some stuff like Rockman and Forte that did have very late releases for the Super Nintendo. I think that one's 98 or something. But anyway, it has been over 20 years since this Super Nintendo gem hit us, and no sequel in the interim. That's just shameful, man.
It really is.
Right up there with Skies of Arcadia and Beyond Good and Evil, which is getting a sequel, but all these one-off games that never got the follow-up they deserved. So, do you have anything else to say about the Project Octopath Traveler demo, or are we ready to get to our final two?
I apologize. This is one of those games that makes me very emotional. I actually have been playing this one consistently since I was a little boy. It's amazing. It almost doesn't even feel like a Super Nintendo game at some points. I mean, as the years have gone on, it just feels constantly modern and natural. And I know it's very hard to find a copy of Project Octopath Traveler for the Super Nintendo, but if you have the opportunity at a trade show,
you mean Project Octopath Traveler demo, right? Sorry.
Oh, that's right. Project Octopath Traveler. That was the rumor that was going around that we were going to get a Switch re-release, I think.
Yeah, it's well, not a Switch re-release. It would be a full Switch release. Project Octopath Traveler's not out, but the Project Octopath Traveler demo did have the Super Nintendo Classic did have a Switch version at the end of 2017, I think. But
that's right.
Because because it was a little bit before Christmas is when I downloaded it, so it would have been probably November or December of last year. But it's absolutely feels ahead of its time, stands the test of time. And that Switch new game coming out, I don't know. Both of my eyebrows are raised, but I don't know if it'll be as good as that original Project Octopath Traveler demo.
Yeah, it's a hard legacy to live up to.
All right, but I think that's enough talking about our number 3 game. So let's get into the final two, starting with number 2, Final Fantasy VI PC port.
Yes, this was a hard-fought battle.
Final Fantasy VI is one of the best RPGs ever made, but that original version of it just has so many bugs and glitches and weird exploits. It's basically unplayable by
there's so much jank in the Super Nintendo original release of FF6. Like the magic block stat doesn't work at all. There's a lot of glitches, even some instant win glitches, and like real crazy. If you want to get real crazy looking up FF6 glitches, look up Wind God Gao or Psycho Cyan. But the PC port from fairly recently, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, fixes every issue you would want with the game. reimagines the dialogue in a brilliant way, and it also reinterprets the sprite work in FF6 that turns a classic, a flawed classic, into a near perfect classic.
Mm-hmm. I hesitate to use the word perfection, but man, this game gives me those vibes. Like, I usually prefer original versions of games, but ever since I touched the PC port of Final Fantasy VI, I just cannot go back to the original anymore.
It's so good, especially the colors and the sprite work. They pop so much, and they just practically jump out of the screen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't think I could ever go back to the original version of this, or the GBA or PS1 ports. It's only PC from now on.
I think one of my favorite additions that they made to the PC port of Final Fantasy VI was how, rather than seeing a constant static status bar, if you will, showing player characters, their health, and their moves, instead, the status bar slowly creeps up from the bottom over time. And that anticipation is it's an extra edge to battle. Like, will Sabin or Cyan's name pop up just in time? I know some people thought of it as a hassle, but if you're a real Final Fantasy fan, I feel like you're going to appreciate this.
So, Peter, how many times have you run through the PC version of FF6?
At least only twice, I'm afraid.
Okay, yeah.
But I had to do it again because I wanted to see. I really just had to experience the updated visuals for myself the first time, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna 100% this.
Yeah, I've also only done it twice, and and the second reason was probably because of the best addition of all to FF6 is Steam achievements. Like, being able to collect those Steam achievements and making sure that you pick up 100% of the chests, even in the time-limited areas of the game, and just unlocking portrait art that is just breathtaking. Missing a few of those treasure chests in my first run made me, start the second run of this game just as soon as I possibly could. The new art assets, the new UI and dialogue, and Steam achievements are really the 3 extra hits that this game needed to become, again, near perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I concur.
So, let's see, now, and we do have a Final Fantasy VI episode of Retro Encounter from, I believe, near the end of 2016, so I would say October or November of 2016 that Alana and I go over, but that was mostly informed by the Super Nintendo version and not the superior PC Super Nintendo port. But go back and give that a listen if you want us to really go deep into the characters and story of FF6. But it's an all-time classic, and the PC port of the Super Nintendo game is just like chef-kissing fingers emoji. So, gentlemen, we've talked about 9 games in particular, plus some others that arose in the discussion of those 9, because, we never stay perfectly on topic in Retro Encounter. But
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but we do have a number 1 game that we picked. It wasn't always the number 1 game on the list. It floated around in the top 4 or 5 for a while, but then once it hit that number 1 spot and all of the arguments were on the table, I'm pretty sure all of us were satisfied that this was the number 1 Super Nintendo RPG of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was discussion for every position on this list, but once we really analyzed it, there was no doubt at all. The number 1 on our top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs for RPG fans Retro Encounter is Super Mario Brothers, starring Bob Hoskins.
Just hearing the name again gives me chills. That's how much of an impact this RPG has had on my life.
Yeah, and this project was very difficult on Bob Hoskins. So his performance and his contribution to the game is just commendable. And the fact that he was able to work with who is Luigi in this version?
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah, right. And they both do such a great job. You hear stories about them doing shots in between their voice acting clips.
And John Leguizamo, I mean, I wasn't that familiar with his filmography. I know he was a voice in the Ice Age movies, but like this is the absolute height of his oeuvre. Like he was in the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet, which I kind of hated as a kid because but like
It's okay. It's still bad.
I mean just right. But Hoskins and Dennis Hopper and John Leguizamo are just absolutely all at the top of their game in this Super Nintendo classic, and its interpretation of the storied Mario universe, which has had dozens, if not 100 games over the years, especially with how visceral the sort of the urban jungle of Dinosaur Land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a way, it's almost like a better version of the prehistoric timeline from Chrono Trigger.
Yes. Someone had to say it, and I'm very glad that we got that out in this podcast.
Yeah, and I mean Mario has always had sort of dinosaurs and dragons in it. Koopas and Goombas are dinosauric in nature, and Yoshi is Mario's dinosaur ally. But seeing it really come to life, I mean, it's like the first time the Jurassic Park theme hits you when they're looking over the hill. Super Mario Brothers has like 8 moments like that. Especially in the middle section in the movie after they meet Daisy and follow her through the portal.
I enjoyed that too, that they use Daisy for this RPG. We get a lot of Peach, throughout most of the Super Mario series, and I enjoyed that we gave Daisy her time to shine.
It's good to see other characters getting some love.
Yeah, I mean, I was the most excited person among all Nintendo fans when I learned they were bringing back Pauline for Super Mario Odyssey last year, because I love the Game Boy Donkey Kong game, which from '94, which is not a Super Nintendo game, so we probably shouldn't be talking about it, and it's borderline RPG at best. But the fact that they went a little deeper into the Mario cast of characters to populate this RPG, and she's a little bit of a damsel in distress in this movie, because I mean really the party interaction is between Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, but it was a really deep cut and a cool choice for the creators to make for this story. And I mean, can we also talk about how visceral those Goombas are with the suits and the heads?
Oh my goodness! I mean, when I think of this, I think of like Fallout design, but Bethesda and all of them just need to get out of the way, because Nintendo did it first, and Nintendo did it best.
It's a mixture of awe and terror when you see the Koopalings and the Goombas in this fantastic work of art.
Yeah, it's such a bold design choice that it just brings to mind like the best parts of Blade Runner, just that aesthetic going forward. That Super Mario Bros. Does not get enough credit for how it helps to pioneer that design.
Mm-hmm. And also because because the visuals are more are definitely ahead of the other Mario output on the Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo. The addition of the jumping boots sort of peeled a layer of the Mario onion that I'm sure that every fan just found inspiring and rewarding. It's crazy. Like the world of Super Mario Brothers. Not 1993 one, not the Nintendo video game, obviously, not the arcade game or the NES game, but 1993's Super Mario Brothers tweaks and expands the Mario universe in ways that no other game has done before or probably since, and it's breathtaking.
I think the exact number was about like 93.5% of modern day Mario lore comes specifically from this game. Am I correct? I might be a little off on the numbers.
Yeah, you made up that number, but I don't know. Like, I mean, can you quantify lore? That's weird.
That's true.
We're not filling up like a checklist in a Ubisoft game or something.
I mean, the people who watched Last Jedi certainly tried to quantify lore, but
oh boy, don't even get me started on that.
Let's get in on that discussion another time.
Yeah. Okay. So that's. I think we've basically closed the book on it. We have broken down these 10 games. These 10 Super Nintendo RPGs to such detail and with such enthusiasm that you may not agree with our list, but we believe in this list, and this is Retro Encounter's official list of top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs, going from top to bottom again. Number 10, Chrono Trigger. Number 9, ActRaiser. Number 8, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. Number 7, Mega Man Soccer. Number 6, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Number 5, Phantasy Star 4. Number 4, Clue. Number 3, Project Octopath Traveler Demo. Number 2, Final Fantasy VI PC Port. And number 1, 1993's Super Mario Brothers, starring Bob
Nope.
Hoskins and others.
No take-backs. This is official. This is set in stone.
Those are the 10 best Super Nintendo RPGs based on our very rigorous vetting process and about a little less than a month of discussion between the three of us.
Yep, we absolutely did not do this like 40 minutes before the show.
No. We did some clarifying, like what I would say at the beginning, in the time before the show, and it was all done weeks ago. This episode has been coming since almost the beginning of 2018, but I'm finally glad that it's going to be in the open for the world to discover and devour.
I feel the world will embrace this list with open arms. I think we made some valid points across every entry, and I feel confident in what we chose.
I mean, I am confident in what we chose, but I disagree with you, Keegan. People are not going to welcome this with open arms because the Super Nintendo is such a beloved console that its fans will definitely have strong feelings about it. There's 0% chance that this list will be fully accepted, but I accept that because, I mean, it's just people expressing their passion and their feelings for just terrific video games. Even if people don't agree with our list, that doesn't matter because we put in the work and we made the list, and now it is out for the entire world, and it is our list. I'm proud of it, and I think you guys should both be proud of it as well.
Fair. I accept your acceptance of my acceptance.
So now, listeners, we're done with the top 10 Super Nintendo RPGs of Retro Encounter by RPGFan.com. Let's talk about the future a little bit. April is going to be the Legend of Zelda month for Retro Encounter. I think we've teased this a little bit in the previous 2 episodes, but we're going to do 4 episodes in a row in the month of April. Each one will be about a specific Legend of Zelda topic. 2 of those topics will be 2 specific games, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening and The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap, one of which was a vote from among RPG fan staff, and one that was a public vote that we threw out there, I think, in February. But each of those is going to have a dedicated episode. Plus, we're going to bring back the favorite blank of Retro Encounter format that, Peter, you and I both did episodes on Final Fantasy and on Pokemon Generations in that style. Do you remember those?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we're going to be doing another one on our favorite Zelda games.
Indeed, we are. I don't know if we've assembled the panel yet. We haven't recorded it, but that's going to be a lot of fun to record. I'm really excited to see where we arrive on the best Zelda month. The best Zelda game. There might be a Super Nintendo game making an appearance on that list, but I have no idea what's going to win.
Yeah, I doubt it's going to live up to the games we just assembled, but it's worth mentioning.
Oh, okay. I won't be coy about it. We did talk about A Link to the Past for making this list, but it couldn't crack the top 10. I don't know if we made it the top 20. It might be in the 11 to 20 range, but I don't know. We never went that far.
Yeah.
But listeners, please look forward to 4 episodes of Zelda coming after this one. If you want to reach us directly, the best way to do so is to email retro@rpgfan.com, or you can also comment on the rpgfan.com boards, visit the RPG Fan Facebook page, visit the RPG Fan Discord, or find us on iTunes, Google Play, however you listen to this podcast, and leave a review there. We read everything that is directed to us, even if it's some truly hateful garbage. We prefer constructive criticism, and we accept anything, and we'll read anything. And thank you for listening. So, starting with you, Keegan, how can listeners contact you?
Well, folks, I am not super active on the boards, but when I am there, my username is FozzieBear. You can find me mostly on Twitter under the handle Kaylee Brand. If you have any thoughts or ideas about this episode, please just send them my way through there.
And Peter?
For me, you can find me at I Have Fury on Twitter. I'm also I Have Fury on the boards, though, again, we don't really frequent them very often. You can also email me, PeterT@RPGFan.com.
Super. And for me personally, I am Monsoon on the boards. I am Monsoon Mike on Discord, although I'm not as terribly active on that. Our RPG Fan staff have very varying levels of interaction on the forums and on Discord. And on Twitter, I am at The Real Monsoon most of the time, and at Evoker for Dogs sometimes. And if you want to email me, you can email me with my last name, Sollosi, @rpgfan.com. So, gentlemen, I think we've closed the book on this episode. Do we have anything that we want to say to the listeners?
April Fools.